I was just like, man. Sound coming out of that stereo. So, and also that whole period of time, you know, the early 70s, there was so much great funk and, you know, Skin Tight and, you know, Fire and all these songs with bass lines that were like the whole song really almost, you know. So that was it. I never turned back. I still can't play drums for shit, you know. You think I would have learned, but
you know how to lock with a drummer though. So you know that's it. You know, that's it. That's awesome. That's an awesome story. So Hubert.
Yes, sir.
When did it hit
well,
you?
with me it hit. I was about 9 years old, and I was playing actually drums in the band. And whenever we would take a break, and the bass player would put his bass down, I used to snatch his bass and play a whole bunch of wrong notes. And they used to call me slime. They used to call me slime hands because my hands sweat a lot. So I would sweat up his bass. He'd get pissed off.
I hate that.
Oh yeah. Well, I gotta play your bass next time. Yeah. Then I ended up getting the bass, and it's funny. My first bass was a Carlo Rebelli, and it was a lefty. And I didn't know what to do with it. I had it, you know, I just liked playing, and eventually, I don't remember what my second bass was, but that's how it started.
Okay.
From messing around.
Awesome. T. Bridges.
Yeah, Bridge.
Well, first of all, I wanted to be Jimi Hendrix, so I really wanted to play guitar. And I think everybody always wants to play drums. But I grew up in Rochdale Village in an apartment, so having a drum set was out of the question. But what ended up happening, I think in junior high, I started on trumpet.
Wow, okay.
And then, now I was playing bass, we were fooling around. As a matter of fact, I really cut my teeth in Percy Heath's bass, you know, from the Percy and his brother. What was the name of the group?
MJQ?
MJQ, yes. And, you know, I grew up with his son, went to high school with he grew up before high school. Jason Heath, who was actually an excellent guitar player, but he went to music and art for art. But we used to jam in his basement. That was the hang in, Percy Heath's basement. Percy was always like, when are you going to play a real bass? You know, so, and I'll tell you another funny story about him later, but, so I was playing, you know, I mean, I just picked it up. My first thing was like a plastic guitar, and, you know, you play on one string for a little while, but then eventually when I realized that I couldn't play guitar very well, you know, I'd be hitting all the strings. Me being the analytical person that I am, I figured, well, bass only has 4 strings, so they're farther apart, so it should be easy to play. So, you know, I bought a cheap Carlo Rebelli. That was my first one till I got a better Carlo Rebelli. And, you know, we're jamming, you know, early, mid-60s, I'm jamming in Percy Heath's basement. Eventually, when I go to school, when I go to junior high, I went to trumpet. That's what I wanted to play. And then when my teacher picked up a French horn and said, I need somebody to play this.
French horn.
I said, wow, that's a beautiful instrument. So I ended up in music and art because I could play French horn.
I played French horn too, Tom.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Man.
So French horn was my instrument of choice. Though, let me put this out. I had no desire or thoughts of being a musician. I was going to be a doctor. You know, and I'll tell you a funny Marcus Miller story about that, but that'll come later. So yeah, I just love to play. I love music. I grew up in a musical home. My father had a jazz collection that's probably worth millions. My mother loved all kinds of stuff, and she's definitely into more salsa than anything else. But we came up in a house of classical music, Latin music. You know, my brother was the one who turned me on to Parliament Funkadelic, Jimi Hendrix, and all the rock stuff. So I kind of grew up loving all kinds of music, you know, and probably I'm more of a rocker than anything else. Most people don't really know that, you know. But yeah, I started out on trumpet, went to French horn. I learned all the valve instruments, even including valve trombone. I couldn't play the slide trombone. And then when I got out of high school, just before I got out of high school, I started playing with a local band called the Board of Directors. And that's where I cut my teeth as far as R&B. And, growing up with all the influences, James Brown, like I said, P-Funk, you just Ohio players. I just love music. And so, but it was a hobby. I had no clue till my second year in college when I was sitting in biology writing a song, and I was like, okay, you got to make a decision. You're either going to do music or you're going to, work on the pre-med. And I gave the music industry a shot, and I figured if I hate it, then I can go back to school and focus on, being a doctor with tunnel vision. But once I left, I said, this is what I was supposed to be doing all my life.
Yeah, wow.
Awesome. Artie Reynolds.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, my Trumpet Club brothers.
Oh, you too?
Oh, man. Really? Wow.
Yeah, so same kind of thing. I grew up in a musical household. My dad, shout out, Art Reynolds Jr., singer, entertainer, guitar.
Entertainer for sure, no question.
Yeah.
And, first black singer and office owner in the Jewish wedding circuit.
Wow.
That's
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
But like you guys, I started recording cartoons on a tape player that he gave me, and in the car to my grandmother's house, I used to listen to him. So I loved orchestration. I loved all the Warner Brothers music and all of that. So I always said, well, I want to do that. I want to be a Quincy Jones. And I started on guitar. My dad played guitar. When I got to middle school, I started playing trumpet. We were in an advanced class, and we got instruments. Shout out to Charles Bartlett, the ageless wonder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Contemporaries. He was and we started on trumpet. And that was back, I think, 6th grade. And I played trumpet all through middle school. And it wasn't until I was a fan of Earth, Wind & Fire because I loved the horn arrangements and the vocals and the songwriting. But when I bought the Gratitude album, I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't go to concerts and stuff. I didn't have the money. But when I bought the Gratitude album, and I opened up the album sleeve and I saw Verdine, it was a wrap. I was like, and I switched from trumpet. So it was later. But I was actually, I started playing bass. I used to borrow my neighbor's bass. My neighbor had a bass. It was a Fender copy. He didn't even play. It's something his dad bought him. And I used to borrow it. And one day I heard his dad say, stop giving that guitar to that boy, blah, blah, blah. This was after months of borrowing it, and they finally got it back. So I came and I was upset. So I think I was in like 7th grade or something. I was upset. And my mom went to my dad and said, buy that boy a bass. You're the musician. You know he wants to play. Buy him a bass. And she made my dad buy me a bass.
Wow.
Which he
you had to have it at that point.
At the time. And then I became his bass player when bass in wedding bands was a novelty. Nobody knew what it was. Nobody wanted to pay for it. And I only did it because I was his son. And the band recognized the value of a bass player in a wedding band. But it was keyboard left hand. And it was society music. So you could do foxtrots with a farfisa left hand. But you couldn't play contemporary music with farfisa left hand. And we had a sound because I was a bass player. And that's how it happened. But I didn't play in high school. I was an art major. I could draw. I was racist. So it's kind of funny how music switched because I was going down the art path. I wanted to be a cartoonist. I developed my own characters. I had an apprenticeship with King Features Syndicate. Everybody doesn't know that. They used to do all the comics for the newspapers. And I went down and just cold called and went down there on an interview, and they gave me an internship. I was going all that way till I saw that Verdine. Like, is it upside down?
Exactly, right? Wow.
And I think what even solidified it after that, I took a bus to Jersey. I didn't know where I was going. I saved up my little allowance and my little paper money and took a bus to Jersey. I think it was the Capitol Theater, and saw Shaka Khan, Brothers Johnson. And
my gosh.
Johnson doing this.
Oh, man.
Before I even knew, where it came from. It was Louis Johnson. And I was like, that's what I'm doing. and I never picked up the trumpet again. But I wanted to be Chuck Mangione. I knew that whole album. I knew it by heart. Anyway, so that's yes.
Woo, babe.
All day. I know that album backwards.
That's
You
awesome.
all are
Awesome.
very funny.
Right? But with that, with those times, right, and when it hits you, okay, then at the next stage, it's like, okay, so I have to be serious about this. So it's time to take lessons. It's somebody, it's time to really get serious about it. So I know what I'm doing and not try to just do it by recall or that, even whatever that was that take it to the next level so that you could, do the gigs, so you could remember the songs, so all the different things about that. What was that situation? And what flipping around? What's up with you, Hubert?
I was lucky I had an outlet because, like I said, my dad was an orchestra leader. So here I was, this little 13-year-old going on wedding gigs. I could barely hold bass up. But I knew treble clef. I knew trumpet. But I knew a lot of songs because I used to record a lot from the TV set. So I would do gigs, and the poor keyboard player, his name was Bill Whitehead. God bless him. He used to literally pull me through the songs. D, G, F, B flat. Pull me through all that society stuff till I learned it and memorized it. Working with my dad's musicians made me say, okay, you have to go learn. Like I knew basic music. I had been playing trumpet for maybe 2 years at that time, but I didn't know, like, you know how you say book knowledge, but you don't know street? I knew music to theory to a certain degree, but I didn't know music. I didn't know how to play in a band, listen, chord structure, hearing the key of the song and knowing where it's going to move. I learned all that on my dad's gigs. And it just elevated from there. You get more and more gigs. I was a young bass player. And then I was kind of going like the Broadway studio musician route. So he would get little gigs. Like we do high-level weddings and bar mitzvahs, and there'd be somebody there. Like my first real show where I had to read charts and all that was, I don't know if everybody remembers Hal Linden from Barney Miller.
Yeah.
Right.
Consummate clarinetist.
I love that.
And he hired me to do a gig with him. So I'm like 15, reading charts, so I was going that route. I wasn't really going the tour route. So, but that was a great thing for me, having my father expose me to that and his musicians feeding into me. If you're going to learn, you got to study jazz. You got to learn you can't just know the song. You got to learn you got to learn music.
That's a great age too to have that kind of education,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great foundation. So Jack, what did you do as far as your learning?
Well, I just was in all these bands, and then there was a point where I wanted to, I really wanted to be like as good as I could be, right? So I decided I'm going to be like Jeff Berlin, and I'm sitting there all day long, running scales, running arpeggios, doing all this stuff, and I got really good, but at the same time, I developed tendonitis, and I actually couldn't play. I couldn't play for like a year. Wow. And when I started playing again, I could only play with one finger because I had like trigger finger with my second finger. And I started playing differently because I couldn't do what I was doing before. And people started responding to that. And I thought, people seem to be enjoying my playing more now than when I had all these chops, Because, when you get all the chops going on, you get on the gig and the first thing you want to do is try it all out, when you're like 19, 20 years old, it doesn't matter if it belongs in the song or not. You're like, well, I worked on this shit, so I'm going
to play it.
So you're going to get it tonight whether you want it or not.
Wait till they hear this.
There's the hole.
So,
and then they turn to you and say, yo, man, lay out.
Yeah, exactly.
Breakdown.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that experience sort of led me, and also the fact that I was kind of questioning whether I was going to keep being able to play bass. So I sort of got into being like a songwriter, producer kind of thing. And I did that for like 3 or 4 years before I moved to New York City. And that period of time, that sort of being in the studio, it taught me how to be a studio musician. It taught me how to, arrange, write, mix, and all that stuff. And that's what really, I think, prepared me for moving to New York. Because if I went to New York when I was 21 and 22 and playing all that horse shit I was practicing, I wouldn't, it wouldn't have been happening, So it's sort of like that experience taught me how to be, the musician that I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
You don't know. Things happen in weird ways sometimes. Sometimes
Yes.
injury forces you to sort of mature and learn how to play, So
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing in life, in that journey, that maturity of accepting that,
yes.
Sure.
So it's a deep thing. So Trev, so what was your background as far as when you started, seeking the training and all to be a better musician?
Well, earlier on, my actual first instrument was trombone. So playing that in public school kind of exposed me and kind of got me on the path to reading and kind of working fundamentals. And after that, playing drums in like neighborhood bands. I used to have a lot of bands in Brooklyn back in the 70s, 80s. And the big gigs were block parties.
Yeah.
So I used to play drums and trombone at block parties. So kind of developed from that.
Going to different bands, right? No.
Yeah.
Oh, you were like this?
All the time. All the time.
That's why you did what you did in London. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you got to figure, like, kids were like young, and like the drummer would quit the band, and then somebody would be like, "I'll play," or the trombone player or another horn player would quit the band, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'll play." Just it was about having. Just as a kid, you have such a sense of versatility and just wanting to be able to do it all, to be able to make that connection.
Absolutely.
So, it all kind of comes together in the end in terms of whatever the focus becomes, at least for me. So I'd say that was like a good foundation in terms of just understanding arrangement and form and the keys, the fundamentals,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And after that, going to college, I actually got a degree in music. It's from City College. So, that along with just performing around town, eventually touring, it all just kind of snowballed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome journey. Tony
Thank you.
Bridges.
Oh, Bridges. Okay, go ahead.
Well, actually, and I'm going to probably make a lot of people mad, I just started playing. I never had formal training. I always had an ear. Anything I could pick up, I could figure it out. Now things like the horns, until I went to junior high school, I just bought a book. It taught you finger, and once I knew one of the basic notes, I knew whether I was hitting the proper stuff. When I went to bass, I just learned songs. First started on one string, you learn a song on one string. Then I figured out, wait a minute, if I use two strings, I don't have to move as much. And once I mastered two, it's like, oh, shoot, but if I use three, hey, and then when I got the four, it's like, I wasn't doing all of this, So, but honestly, and like I said, I might probably make a lot of people mad. I never practiced. I just learned songs. So my ear developed. I wish I'd had somebody that could have taught me. I wish I'd had somebody because see, I learned great by seeing. So like if Artie showed me a line, I'd sit home and I'd figure it out, But if you leave it up to me, I'm going to practice. It just was boring to me. I never could figure out, okay, what's my objective and how do I achieve it? But now if you sit me, and what really helped me was people knew I could play because they used to hear me down in the basement, Percy's basement, and just playing, and we're rocking out. And, we're playing, a lot of, I really started out playing a lot. It was Inagata DeVita and anything by Cream and, Mountain and we're just rocking out in this basement. But again, like I said, I wasn't, it's just something I love to do. But there's, like I said, the group that really opened me up and taught me is more to practicing. You got to learn how to play. How do you play music? You got to interact with other musicians. The board of directors needed a bass player in '74. And if I auditioned, I don't remember, it's so long ago, but I remember I got the gig. And I had 3 days to learn 40 songs before the first gig. So it's like, okay, I'm sitting learning the songs and I'm staying up. I learned 39 of them. So my initial first gig with them, which should have told me not to do this at all, because we're doing a gig up in Harlem. And next thing I know, guns are coming out and stuff. And the drummer's like, this was a good lesson. The drummer said, keep playing. So you saw everybody drop. It was like, and the drummer's sitting there, he's playing. But we played till the whole incident ended. Nobody got shot, nothing, but, the show goes on. And and I thought if I was going to quit, I would have quit right then. But I didn't. In that band, I played for them for 2 years, and you'd have to learn stuff on stage. Hey, you hear that on the jukebox? We're playing that next. So my ear developed. And when you start out, I couldn't remember chord changes worth a hoot, but by the end of probably that first year, I got to a point which also helped hinder my reading, because if I hear something twice, 95% of it I already got. So from listening to the radio, songs I've never heard, I can pretty much pick up a bass. And unless it's technically just difficult, like, with some Jaco stuff, now I got to sit down and break it down. That's too fast. But, I grew up learning grooves, James Brown, Funkadelic, you name it, and even the rock stuff, I got to a point where if I hear it once or twice, I'm going to memorize it. Mm-hmm. So what that hindered my reading, because I could read, but kind of once I read through it, I heard it. So now I'm not reading anymore, So I've never been an excellent reader, and that's because of my ear. But my ear has gotten me more work. And I was thinking about what Jack was saying. I had the opportunity to work with Patti LaBelle's musical director, Bud Ellison, at it was Daily Planet at the time. This was about 76. And, I'm young and cocky, and I'm just, I'm at the session and I'm playing this funky groove. And he says, stop. I said, what's the problem? He says, man, that's nice, but I don't need you to play that. I said, man, this is cool. He said, look, I just need you to play this. So he plays this real simple, like, to me, it was a boring bass line. And I played it, for a minute, and then I went back to what I was doing, because I thought it was better, you put every chop, So he says, stop. He says, I need you to play this line. He said, if I wanted Stanley Clarke, I'd have hired Stanley Clarke. But you're on this gig. So then he did, which is why my career took off, like Jack said. He just play that bass line. Then he broke down the keyboard part. He said, see, now, if you play that, I can play this. And then if I can play this, then he put the strings in. Then he put the horns in. And then I was like, oh, wow. Then it made sense to me. What I was playing was good, but it wasn't appropriate. What he had, though it was simple, it was the pieces of the puzzle that were absolutely fit best. And he said, look, when you build something, he said, you don't build a building from the top down. He said, you build it from the foundation up. He said, I would rather add than have to take away. And from that point, I always approached everything I did with simplicity. Yeah. And I started working. I got a lot of work. And I mean, there were points when I'm saying, man, great bass player. And I'm like, I ain't playing nothing. The heck? And I still sometimes feel that way. It's like people seem to love my playing because they say it fits. And I'm like, I ain't playing nothing,
That boy.
But I'll do it, I mean, I'm not a chops person. I'm not a solo person. I think I'm really good at putting a groove where it needs to be. It could be eighth notes, and I've had people challenge me on that. You know, that rock and roll is real simple. I said, you play an eighth note consistently and make it groove. You know, down real quick, because it's not just what you're playing, it's how you're playing.
Yeah.
Because Rochelle Farrell got me real good one time. I played that song that she does, the duet with Will Downing. And I wrote the chart out. I wrote it exactly as I believe it was Anthony Jackson that played on the thing. I wrote it out. I played it perfectly. She said, that was good, but now play with some feel. That was like, ooh. But I understood it, because sometimes when you're being so precise, and especially in sessions, you tend to, you get into the session head. I like it when I don't even know they hit the record button. But if I don't know they hit the record button, I kind of play differently than if I know they're hitting the record button, you kind of get into the session head, and then you're looking for perfection. But some of the best stuff is the imperfections. If that makes sense. There's some of that stuff, those nuances that come out when you're not being so focused, And so when I realized what Rochelle was saying to me was, you played it perfectly, but now play with some feel. So I had to leave the chart alone and just you go into a different state of mind, and it feels good, because anybody can play, but can you make it feel good? You can take the simplest groove, and if it doesn't make you do that, then what is it?
What is it? Yeah, that's great, kid. That's great.
Yeah, Chico, I was doing a session with Chico Freeman. He told me that. He said, that was good, but now stop thinking about everything and just go ahead and play.
So Hugh.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it, sir.
Well, I also come from a musical family. My dad, Hubert Eaves III. Keyboard player.
Keyboard player.
Shout out, Hugh the Third.
That's
Fountain of Youth.
Uncle Hugh.
I know, man. I see
he looks younger than you, man. It's like,
that's what I'm saying. I be getting my stuff.
I said, wait a minute, who's the dad?
I know. He's up on all the gadgets, all the latest stuff. He's like, yo, little Hugh, you got to get this. I'm like, Dad, slow down. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah, but my dad was actually a drummer first.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, we would jam in the house, and sometimes he would play drums, and I would get on keyboards or bass, and just, I'm just fumbling around trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I also played another instrument in high school. I played clarinet. Forget that. I wanted to play bass clarinet, but that was already taken. So they said, listen, you can play clarinet, and maybe somewhere down the line we'll move you to bass clarinet. So I played that, and I was in concert band, second chair concert band, and that's where I learned how to read music. And then I played in the jazz band, and then after that, read music kind of just went out the window, unfortunately for me. Because most of the gigs and the things that I was doing at that point, it was always play what you hear. Let me see what you can come up with. So my reading chops kind of kind of went out the window for a minute. And it's funny. Now I got all these books, and I'm doing studying and stuff on my own, trying to get that back. But for the most part, it's just play. See what you can come up with, have fun. And I agree with Tony. To me, a really good thing for a musician is to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and to play to your strengths and work on your weaknesses.
Right. Exactly.
Preach.
Yes.
That's the truth. Yeah.
I try to play to my strengths. I'm more of a groove oriented bass player. I try to do it with 3 or 4 notes, maybe 5 every once in a while. And because I also write and I produce. So a lot of times I'm thinking, there's been many times when I'm on stage and I'll hear somebody play a wrong note, or I'll hear something that's not right, and it's almost a curse because you hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm the one playing the wrong notes.
Yeah.
But
Been there.
yeah, it's like when I'm playing, it's like I'm producing, I'm writing, I'm hearing everything, and it's fun. I love music. I love what I do, and just trying to hold that groove so everybody else can get some and do what they have to do. I don't have to play a whole lot of stuff.
That's the axe. That's
Yeah.
And in terms of, I used to take a private lesson when I was maybe 13 or 14 with this bass player. I don't remember his name. It was a horrible experience. He would come to my house. Listen, he would come to my house, and my dad was out of town, so it was just my mom and my sister. And we go to my room and close the door. I get on the drums. He'd be on his bass, punching me in the neck, punching me in the head, telling me he was older than me, much older than me, beating my ass in the house and telling me if I told my mother or if I told my father, that it would be worse. So I didn't say nothing.
Wow,
Lessons
that's crazy,
over.
you.
Yo, the lesson's over. I ain't learning shit. He come back. Mike Tyson's me up again.
Oh
man.
Wow.
And then one day, my mom, I think she just kind of noticed something wasn't right. And we're in there, and I'm taking whatever shots she's giving, and my mom just came in there and caught him. She basically kicked him in the ass and threw him out the house.
Wow.
And the wild thing is, I saw that brother one time as an adult on Atlantic Avenue. I'm at a red light, and he comes up to the window, wanting to wash the window. Wow. He doesn't recognize me.
Wow.
And I'm just looking at him like this. I'm like, wow. If I wanted to,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
but I don't. Don't. So I just said, "Nah, I'm good. Go ahead." And that was that.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's crazy.
Man.
You guys, man.
Oh man, I'm sitting like, wow.
Wow, right? I'm shocked,
Everybody.
right? It gets the music too, the musicians. That's crazy. But you guys, with all that, with the, because that's definitely an important part that helped you move on, because you all became such incredible musicians. And then, it comes up with the audition process and the great gigs, because, back in the day, it was the auditions at the different studios, at the one that, what's his name, the guitar player and his wife owned, CT Studios.
CT Studios.
Right,
CT,
and all those different rooms and Rocket Studios and all the audition process. And, because with Artie, because Artie was in the band with me with Future, with my cousin, ex-Cameo member, Arnett Lieutenant, and we were in the band. Artie said, "Hey man, I got a call with Freddie, man." So, and Artie took that gig, said, "Well, I got to go do this." And that, from that gig on, Artie was, to this day, it was like,
That's right.
to this day, and Artie took off, and with Tony and everybody, and with Jack, because I remember Jack, because Jack was doing the what do you call it, the Led Zeppelin tribute with Nunzio, right?
Yeah. With Nuns, right?
Then you got that call for Lenny after that. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Jack out of town. It's like, "Yay, Jack!" It's like, so. And with Tony, I remember Tony with the skateboard flying around New York City, and and going down the hill, because we were rehearsing at that studio. What's the name of that studio that was on 10th?
Or 10th Avenue.
Right.
That had the Wall of Shame in it. Dang, what was it?
Montana.
Right. Yeah.
Montana. Yeah.
And Tony just flying down that hill, and almost getting killed, but to get to rehearsals, with that bass on his back, with all that weight on his back, But all you guys, and Trev, and when they're seeing Trev, this his gruel and his grind, and at the and this with everybody, right? So, and Hubert, and we talk about it, which we're going to come back to this, his whole thing with Erica and the sound and the history, how worldwide that bass tone for that is known around the world, right? So it's like, so going to that, that's being prepared for that. Just those particular situations and how it came about, the situations and how you made it better. How you were able to get into that situation and just continue to learn and whatever story that may come from that. And we'll start with you, Jack.
What's the question?
I know,
that was a long one, right?
That's a long one. The question would be,
was like,
would be, the situation, that took you out and put you on the road, and how that audition or that situation that was you called to do amount of tunes and you did it, and
in a way, it kind of started a little bit when I came down and auditioned for you guys, because that was when I first came to New York. I auditioned for the band with Gordon Dukes, and started doing that gig. Mm-hmm. And then within like a year of being, and then I got the gig. I was also playing at Lola's with Gordon and a bunch of other singers. So I was like kind of working a lot, starting to work. But then within like a year of being in the city, I was in 13, 14 bands. And,
wow.
It was crazy, but it's and that's what, and it was all different types of stuff. It was R&B, mm-hmm. It was blues, it was rock, it was original rock bands. And then I started doing the Zeppelin thing on Monday nights. And because I was doing that gig, when Lenny was looking for a bass player, his bass player had some drug issues or something, and he left in the middle of the tour. So they were doing a huge world tour. And the guy left in the middle, and Lenny said, I want someone that can play like John Paul Jones. But Lenny is also really into like, Verdine White and Jamerson and all these styles.
Yeah.
I could also play along with the rock stuff. So he heard about me, and it was before cell phones. I got home and I had like 10 messages on my home phone, all these different people saying, I recommended you for Lenny. So I was like really into it because I loved his first record. And I went out to New Jersey, SST, I think it was, and auditioned.
SST, yeah. Weehawken, right? Yeah.
Yeah, about 20 New York bass players were there. A lot of good players from New York. So I auditioned there, and they picked me and one of the cat, Charlie Torres, and they said, we're going to fly you two guys out to L.A. So I get out to L.A., and they had it on the radio. Because this is when Are You Gonna Go My Way was. So they had it, they put it on the radio, and everybody in L.A. was auditioning. Everyone from like, guys like Rudy Sarzo, to like, LA session cats, all different people were there auditioning, 250 guys.
Woo!
And somehow, I think because Lenny was prepared for me, he knew I was coming, and he liked the idea of whatever he heard. So I auditioned and got the gig, and did it for 15 years, and it was a perfect gig for me because it really covered a lot of ground musically that I liked. I could play funky, I could play rock, I could play like John Paul Jones. I could, we did a lot of funk jamming where I could do like some Verdine White shit, and it was just the perfect fit for me.
Jack, were you on that WOMAD tour with Lenny? The WOMAD tour in 92.
I don't think so. I joined in 93.
Oh, okay.
I joined in 93, yeah. August of 93. And I did it till like 2008. I actually just played with him again earlier this year, right before the COVID thing. He just called me and said, can you do this gig? And I went and did it. It was fun. It was weird. It was like I never stopped doing it. It was the weirdest jump back in. And it was just like, it just felt like no time had passed, Well, and it was like 10 years.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome.
Definitely.
So Artie.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Because you started with Freddie.
Well, it's funny. I've always had like so many different pockets of situations because I loved all kinds of music. So and
hey, Artie was the man back then. Let me just tell y'all that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Did everybody's gig.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Guys. Like I was in a rockabilly band. My jazz guys didn't know that. I used to play with a band called a guy by the name of Deacon Jones. It was Fats Deacon. And we played nothing but rockabilly, fast eighth notes all night. And then I joined the band with you, Damon. I don't even remember how I got into Future. Did I actually audition, or did you recommend me? How did?
Yeah. As always, I have my ear to the pulse, to what's going on, right? And I heard about you, I think through Julio Herrera, right, and Danny Hinton.
Yeah.
So So and at the time we were going through trying to get something, and I had heard that you weren't had, because we were trying to do that cameo stuff, so you had to play and move. And Artie didn't have that fear of doing that, so it was, worked really fast. We locked up really fast.
It was so much fun. I remember that like it was yesterday. But it's funny, like so many pockets, because I had that going on. I could do rock. Of course, I knew funk, P-Funk. I was a Bootsy Collins fan, Larry Graham, Louis Johnson. So I could kind of fit in a lot of different genres. And the funny thing that happened, and I think I was still in Future, I was playing with Alan Palanca, and I got the call from Alan Palanca. I had done some kind of a Broadway type of gig with him, and he was musical director for Melba Moore. And he hired me to do that. So we had done a couple of Melba Moore gigs. And at that time, not to bring up old Hush Productions, they were putting a band together for Freddie Jackson.
For Freddie, right.
So Freddie's band was basically, Mike Campbell was the musical director, and it was all of those guys from Change,
right,
with the exception, and this is how I got in, his name just popped out of my head, Timmy Allen.
Yes.
Right.
Great bass player.
Yes.
Great bass player.
Killer.
He was part of that circle.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, let me back up a little bit. I knew that circle because in the Bartletts, I played with Fritz Cadet.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And Fritz met them first. So he used to go to the Y, and he used to go to McKell's.
McKell's,
All rehearsals in Queens and tell me, Artie, you got to see these guys. They to this, they to that. And I went down one time, and that's the first time I saw them. Johnny Kemp, Melissa Moore.
Wow.
Mike Campbell. I think Toby was playing drums.
Yes.
Don Adams. So that's how I knew them. I met them that night. But it was really Fritz knew them. Vincent Henry.
Right, Vincent,
Now, that aside, now I'm in Melba's band. I still don't really know those guys. Timmy doesn't want to go on the tour that they're putting together for Freddie Jackson. And they needed a bass player. And I think it was Bobby Duckett.
You right? Yeah.
Yes.
Melba, and said, if you have a guy, you'll love him. And they pulled me there. And I didn't really know those guys. So I got there, and they were like, this motherfucker from Queens, can he play? I mean, like, that was the thing. So I was the sub that wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
But I was only there because Timmy, thank you, Timmy, was writing and producing and didn't have time to go out on tour. And that's how I got in with Freddie. And funny story, I'm going to tell you, like, we all have a little negative story. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share this, I'm going to throw this out to the world. I almost got fired off Freddie Jackson. The late, great Mike Campbell was in the dressing room talking to Vincent Henry. This is an exclusive.
Exclusive? If you don't know, now you know.
I heard them talking about me. And Mike wasn't a man of words. He wasn't a man of a lot of words. He was just like, I don't know, man, something, it don't feel right. It don't feel right. Going back to Phil. He said, and Vincent's like, well, did you talk to him? You don't want to fire him. Now, this is my first major tour. I'm like, I don't want to get fired off my first tour. And so now I go back out, and Mike's like, yeah, I spoke to him. I tell him, listen to the record. So Mike, that was his way of saying, get your shit together. Go listen to the record. So I'm like, you and my lady rock me tonight. What is it? That ain't like playing Jeff Berlin, Jocko. Like, what? And I had to think about it. And it finally came to me. I was in the Future band. We were coming off the Cameo thing. So ballads were aggressive. It was dun, 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 dun. Freddie Jackson was lyric. It was flowing. You are my lady.
Yeah.
I had to relearn and unlearn the cameo approach
Right.
and relearn the silky smooth approach.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that's what I'm talking about, motherfucker. You listen to the And Vincent's sitting there like big brother. Yeah, you sound good, brother. You sound good. True story. Exclusive. And
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And Mike and him, ever since, I did like 5 tours with him. And that's how that happened. But I almost got fired. Vincent called me. I never told you that, but I heard them. And Vincent was like, don't fire him, man. And I dig that.
That sounds like Vince too, man. Diplomat, really good brother.
Yeah, he's good brother, man.
Love it, man.
Yeah, we're doing a thing with him later in September. We're just talking about the Bronx and the whole Bronx scene that he has, So we're blessed with all of this. That's a great story. I appreciate that.
Out of Freddie Jackson, I'm gonna tell you this one. At that time, Alex Bouillon was the keyboard player.
That's right. That's right.
Me and him. I'm giving it exclusive for my
friend. If you don't know, now you know.
We were in London. Alex Bouillon flew home to work out a deal with Hush as an artist. He was in one office and heard a phone conversation that Terry Lewis was looking for me. He had seen me on Freddie's show in Minneapolis. I don't know if they were the promoters or whatever. And New Edition needed a new bass player. And he was looking for me because I had the feel that he thought would fit. When Alice got back to London, he pulled me inside and said, yo, get a hold of Terry Lewis. They were looking for you. Now I was knee-deep with Freddie Jackson. So, of course, they're not going to tell me Terry, because if Flight Time calls you, you go. Alex Bouillon kicked that off by letting me know. I get a hold of Flight Time, and I find them, and they're like, yeah, Terry Lewis is trying to reach you. How do you feel about playing with New Edition? I was like, how do I feel about playing with New Edition? I'm already at the airport. What? But if Alex hadn't heard that conversation, they would have never found me. And then,
sweet blessings for the blessed, boy.
Ooh, baby.
Now you know,
right? That's amazing, Art. Any more? You got any more like that?
Oh, right. I just show them all my.
Yeah, what's your prayer book? Like, whoa, that's good, man.
Supposed to show you friends. Look out for friends.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you really never know where the gig's gonna come from.
That's
right. Yeah, you gotta be.
That's so true. That's so true.
Ready. And Alex didn't have to say nothing. If he didn't like me, he would have just minded his business.
Right.
Right.
But little things like that put you on your way. I remember Vincent Henry, shout out to Vincent again, telling me about playing with the Minneapolis Terry Lewis Thump Field. He was like, well, you don't really play the notes, you mute the notes. Because Timmy Allen was a master of playing with muted notes, him and Marcus. But, so you never know where it's coming from. You know what I mean? You never know where it's coming from.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a good one, Art. Thank you for that, sir.
Yeah, that was
I owe you 2. He gave us 2. He gave us 2.
He gave 2.
That's awesome. We'll send you. It's in the mail. It's in the mail. Okay.
How did my
2
man,
bottles.
He took a $5 bill up. Buddy took a $5 bill up last week and went like this. He was like, it's there. You got it.
Right,
The 5 is there. Bang.
Right.
Hey, man, I've always been humble. You always got to thank the people that look out for you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
That's
why I thank all of y'all. Bless. So, Tony, baby shoes.
Yeah, it's interesting because Artie hit on something. First of all, Artie and I have traded gigs on many occasions. Well, let me put it. I have followed the royalties. See.
Oh no, stop.
I was the knight, but it was always cool because one thing I want to say about the New York vibe amongst bass players, there was really never competition. It was like Artie does. Jack does what he does. Hubert does what he does. Trev does what he does. And if you're going to get called, you're going to get called for who you are because we all develop an identity in our playing. There's a signature. There was a way that we played. Because I literally got tracked down years ago to do Edgar Winter. This guy saw me playing somewhere at Leviticus.
Mm.
He saw me playing at Leviticus, and for a whole year, he didn't know my name. He was trying to find me till he said, man, there's this dude with baby shoes. Oh, that's Tony Bridges. And so he got my number and he called me up and he said, you know, I auditioned just before Last July. And, you know, turned out I got that. But I've never had to do a lot of auditions. Most people, if they didn't know my name, they always remember the shoes. So the shoes have got me a lot of work. But I first started touring with Undisputed Truth in '78. And I don't even know how I got that gig. But then I moved to LA for 8 months and hated it. Came back to do something. And when I came back, before that, the first audition I ever did was actually for 29, Lenny White and 29.
Wow.
Marcus was still in school. And so he was auditioning. Barry, for some reason, Barry Johnson, great bass player.
Yes.
You know, who I hate because he can sing too. You know, and that's hard to do. Singing is really difficult. But anyway, for some reason, Barry wasn't able to do the gig either. So I didn't go to the audition. I happened to, anytime I came back in town, I would always go to Daily Planet to see the owner, John Grossbard, because John facilitated my career in ways that I cannot thank him for. Because whenever I came, again, like Artie said, being humble, I always went back to where my roots were. I spent a lot of time in the Daily Planet before it became Planet Sound. So whenever I'd come in, John, man, Lenny White's auditioning bass players. Lenny White's. I said, man, you can't just walk in on people's auditions. He said, these people probably got called. You know, they got charts. They got, man, Tony, it's you. You can do this. I said, man, you can't. He said, so he stopped me. He goes and talks to Lenny. And he says, Lenny said, you know, you'll have to go last, but you can audition. Now, there's about 16 bass players and all these beautiful basses. I mean, it's just, I'm like, oh, you know, and you could tell, you know, they had the charts. They had, you know, they had a chance to practice the music because he's still doing a lot of Return to Forever kind of stuff. So I'm sitting in the back, and me being me, I got my little old cheap Carlo Rebelli, but it was one of the first ones that had the P Jazz configuration on it. And so I'm sitting in the back, you know, and I'm listening to the other guys, and I'm like, why can't they hear this? And they got, you know, come on, you know. So by the time I got called, well, the interesting thing, you knew who he started to like, because out of 16 of them, I think only 2 other than myself got called to do a solo. So, you know, Lenny, and he announced before, he said, look, if I tell you to stop, please don't take it personally. It's just, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste mine. I know what I'm looking for. And so, you know, just understand that. So I'm like, oh, you know, I don't even know any of this stuff, you know, but I'm sitting there as the other guys are playing because they let us stay in the room. So I'm sitting there and I'm, okay, I feel that. Why can't he feel that? You know, I'm being critical. But I'm like, hey, don't worry about it. So finally he says, you ready? I'm like, yeah. He says, you need to see the charts? I said, no. You know, okay. So I said, wait a minute, but there's one tune I just need to hear the bridge. So they play the bridge, and I said, okay, let's go. So we're going, and, you know, we're in the pocket, we're doing what we're doing. All of a sudden, Lenny starts to go off. I mean, he goes so far out of time, you know. And so Donald Blackman let this go on for a little while, and Donald said, hey, Lenny, what you doing? What you doing? He said, man, I just want to see if my man can count. Because you had to sit in that pocket. But what I realized, as long as I knew where the one was, he could go as far out as he wanted to. And he did. He did. And I'm just going, you know, I'm laying in the groove. So then they said, they gave me one more song, and we're playing the song, and all of a sudden he says, bass solo. So I go into my thing, and at some point I got lost, and I just went to funking. I just started thumping and slapping. And, you know, at the end, Donald pulls me over. He says, you got lost, didn't you?
Donald, no man.
He said, that was the best thing that could have happened to you, because when you started slapping, that's exactly what he wanted to hear. And I ended up, I got the gig and did really only the rehearsals, because Marcus decided he was not going to finish college, and he decided he was going to go back to the gig. Now, if you had a choice between me and Marcus, I'm going to take Marcus too. You know, let's be real. I love my brother, you know, and that's a relationship that literally we are brothers. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but I was probably his first bass teacher, you know, because I wasn't going to be a musician. I just loved to play. But me and Marcus grew up in the same. You mind me telling this story, Damon?
No, I know.
No, go ahead.
So Marcus and I grew up in the same building in Rochdale Village in Jamaica, Queens. And Marcus used to come, you know, to my house every day. And he used to knock on the door. You know, and I'm like, okay, Marcus, learn this. And I'd show him, because I'm like, hey, if I ain't going to use it, let me give it to somebody. And I recognized the genius in him, because, I mean, every day, whatever I showed him, the next day he had it. So every day he used to come banging on the door. Bang, 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 bang. He didn't ring the doorbell, just bang, 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 bang. And, you know, being young like we all were at some point, we were a little cocky. He's like, I'm going to bust you, Tony. I'm going to bust you. And I was like, come on in. Let me hear what you got. And he'd play it. I'm like, dang, okay, now learn this. And he'd go home next day. Bang, 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 bang. I'm going to bust you. And this went on for like 6 months. Then I went away. I don't know whether I went on tour or went somewhere. And I came back, and I don't even know how Marcus knew I was home. But ding dong. I looked through the peephole, and it's Marcus. Doesn't say anything. In my mind, I'm like, uh-oh. So I let him in, and we sit down, and he starts playing something. I don't know. It was a Stanley Clarke tune that's not easy to learn. You know, and I'm like, Marcus, how did you figure that out? And he was like, well, my dad had an old phonograph, you know, old record player, and it had 16 on it. So, you know, most albums were 33. So 16 is almost half, so slow it down where you could hear it, you know. So I said, show that to me. And then he showed me the whole riff. And like I said, if somebody showed me something, then, you know, I would practice it. But other than that, like I said, I don't practice. I still don't practice. I told Marcus at that point, I said, you're now the teacher and I'm the student, you know. And I think shortly after that, he skipped college, which his mother tried to get me to convince him not to do. You know, she said, you know, you're like a big brother to him. He'll listen to you. And I said, Mrs. Miller, I can't do it. I can't. She said, why not? I said, your son is a genius, and he's going to be, and this is quote unquote, I said, he's going to be a major force in the music industry one day. 2 years after I had that conversation with her, he bought her house.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Legend.
That's deep.
It is.
It's heavy, man.
It is.
Wow.
Great story. If you didn't know, now you know. It continues.
We're rolling today, boy.
Yeah, we're rolling today.
We're rolling.
Right? Trev, come on. What's your story? Tell us yours. Go right to it.
Well, first off, props to Artie Reynolds, because around town, there were a lot of local things going on as far as wedding bands and different club things. And I had the honor of subbing for Artie in one of his wedding bands, way back in the day. And, you know, it just kind of creates that scenario of 6 degrees of separation, because later on, I actually played for a few years with Freddie Jackson also.
Right.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
so
all
that
from
was,
Freddie Jackson School.
Right.
Me too.
Huh.
Yeah.
Me
definitely.
too.
Definitely. So just in terms of how things come around, and that was a great gig, because I kind of had to learn that same lesson in terms of approach for the gig. I mean, when you're playing around town, when you're doing weddings, you have a certain level of freedom, and that's where you develop your creativity. But playing a real gig, so to speak, you have to learn to be more tempered and in your approach. and you got to hear everything, especially as a bass player. Your groove necessitates that you hear everything. You know, that's why I think bass players make the best producers, personally. And
Bass man just entered the room.
Right.
And it was a great learning, growing experience for me, and did it for a few years, and just got a greater sense of a show and how to develop and how to evolve, how to support, how to step out, how to lay back, you know, and just give it what it's given. And that's really been a big plus for me. And then other gigs I've had, just local gigs and different things around town. GQ, Allison Williams, shout out. Mickey Howard, played with for a while.
Did
Roy
Mickey too?
Ayers. Yes. So it's a few. It's a lot. It's a succession of different lessons for me. So learning and growing in each situation and taking something from it, and also giving something to it is very important.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's an awesome way to look at it. That's, again, one of the blessings of being in New York, you know, because I know for sure, and, you know, because I came from Long Island and coming out to the New York scene and seeing Artie and Mike Campbell and
Rico Tyler.
Rico.
Yep,
If you came up on the stage, if you were able to come up on the stage, if you put your hand up and was able to come up and do one of the songs, maybe one of the songs, it had to be a certain level. That if you didn't hit that and you had one of the guys look at each other and say, "Yo, this cat it's not happening right now." So okay. You know, we're gonna get him off the stage as quickly as possible. But you know, you had to find that place, that sweet spot within everybody, which was a beautiful thing to try, you know, to be involved in. That beautiful thing of being in New York City and being able to play all these rooms. You know, to be able to play with Jack and be able to play with Tony and be able to play with Hubert and Trev and Artie was like a beautiful thing. It was the lessons and Bill, because Bill and I have a certain thing that just works. So it's like those things, those lessons, and to see it that way and not be an ego and all, and take those lessons and go home. And also for this, to come to this point now in 2020, that we want to share that so that it moves on. Because if we don't do it, it's just going to get lost. You know?
A lot of people didn't know a lot of this. Since we've been doing this, man, just the stories, what a lot of you guys played before you played your main instrument. You know, I mean, I played French horn. I know y'all didn't know I played French horn. I mean,
they knew I did either.
I had no idea, Tony. You know, yeah, but I think it's a wonderful thing, and I guess this is what quarantine does. You know, it brings out the best of all of us. You know,
right.
You know, it's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing.
So
I think one of the things. Let me just say real quick. One of the things people don't realize is musicians do so much behind the scenes.
Yeah, I know.
You know, and people don't realize, you know, they just see the glamorous side. They see the performance, but they don't see all the time you put in, you know, to do what you do. No. You know, I mean, when you're going to get a real job, what we do would kill the average person. If they really knew. Yeah. Like Jack said something that blew my mind. He said, I think he said 14, 16 bands, something.
Yeah.
I had a 6-month period where I was in. People just said, "Yo, you're doing too much." I said, "What are you talking about?" They said, "How many bands are you in?" I said, 18. You know, so I was always learning. If I wasn't learning, I was at the rehearsal. If I wasn't at the rehearsal, I was at the session. If I wasn't at the session, I was at the gig. You know, if there was 15 minutes, I found something to put there, you know. And it wasn't until my mother asked when I was going to see her, and I had to pull my schedule book out. I said, "Ooh, you're scheduling your mom, and this ain't good."
Wow.
And it was 3 months from the time she asked the question that I had a day open.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, a lot of times you don't realize at the time either when you're doing all those gigs that you're getting better. You're learning so much. You're just and it makes it also possible that you go in for an audition, you're just like, I got this shit. You know, you're not like you got no nerves. You're just like, oh yeah, I got this shit, you know, because you're playing so much you always have your axe in your hand, and you're working with all these different people, and it's a huge thing.
Yeah. It's funny, man. All like the major things that I've done, I've never really auditioned. They said, "Well, come and play a bit," and then that was it. And the next thing you know, I'm on a plane going somewhere. When I was doing Darryl Hall and Hall and Oates, it was like, "Well, come up to the farm and play for a week or something." And I didn't really know that I had the gig. It was like, okay, so we're going Friday. We're gonna have we're gonna eat and have a big barbecue, and then the Monday we're leaving for Japan. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem.
I'm good. I'll do that.
I'm good with that. You got a passport, right? I said, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, you just do what you do, and you because you're prepared, like you said. You just
be comfortable in there.
Yeah.
So Hubert. So what would you? Yes, sir. What would you say in regards to all that, sir?
Well, my touring days started right out of high school with Lisa and Cult Jam. I auditioned for them on bass, and I got that gig. I was the youngest one in the band, and my man Spanador, Alex Mosley, the great, one of the best musicians.
Man.
We all
know.
Good.
You serve you on your own instrument. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But
with a smile too. He'll smile in your face.
Yeah. Be like, oh, you don't know that? Hey, you try to ask him to teach you something, he'll play it real fast so you can't get it.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
But anyway, that's where I started with Lisa, and I did that for years, and it was a huge learning experience for me because I was a kid on the road, seeing all kind of crazy stuff, and just getting my feet wet and learning the importance of just holding it down and playing a part. It's the record has already been written, produced, and it's successful already. So whatever you think it should be, that's cool, but this is what it is. So I kind of learned that lesson early. From there, I went on to, I think, maybe Alex Bouillon. I kind of followed Artie, again, to get Artie more props. But sometimes, gigs that he couldn't do, I would get called for sometimes. I did Alex Bouillon, Randy Crawford. I did Freddie. That was a trip for a while. And just, by the time I got to Erica, that was, we had no clue, what we were about to get into with that. Matter of fact, I had turned that gig down 3 times before I took it.
Wow.
I didn't want to go on the road at all. Keys called me, "Yo, Hugh, I think this is gonna be big." Keys, the keyboard player, Norman Hurt.
Yeah, Norman Hurt.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, shout out to Keys.
Yeah.
Right.
Incredible player. And finally, I decided to do it, and I'm so glad that I did because it was a lot of fun, and the music was great. Erica was great. The crowds were great. We got a lot of attention, a lot of exposure, and had a lot of fun doing that. A whole lot of fun.
Yeah, and that leads us a perfect tie on into the bass sound. You guys,
Wait, I'm sorry, Damon. I just want to say one thing because it's somebody I need to shout out with what you said about Keys. First of all, Hugh, you just need to understand how your reputation playing with Erica was all through New York. You
what?
Oh my God! Please, you
was killing that gig, bro.
Yeah,
thank you,
y'all
my
really
brothers.
were, man.
I just want to shout out Cliff Branch, the keyboard player. Another
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
my first, I'll say, artist, like recording artist concert gig before Freddie and all of that was with Denroy Morgan. You remember Denroy?
Yeah.
Do anything for you. I got the gig. I went down to Brooklyn and played, and we got the gig. And we went, I think it was New Orleans. We took a tour bus, my first tour bus. And I only did like 2 or 3 gigs, but I will never forget it. Cliff Branch is one of the nicest, funniest. I laugh to this day thinking about it. But I just wanted to shout him out because that was actually my first,
man.
on the stage with a recording artist gig before.
Cliff is awesome, and he always stays in touch, and he supports what we're doing as well. Which is an awesome thing. So, real quick, fellas, this is the If You Don't Know, Now You Know show, and we have these great brothers here. We're talking about the bass in the song, the sound of bass, so because some, being a drummer and Bill being a guitarist, and we have to work with bassists. So, sometimes you can look to your right or look to your left, and you say, oh my gosh, with the sound, having the connection between the bass, because, being that I love the sound of it, just noticing bass players is it coming from the instrument or if it's coming from the amp, and because you have guys that just turn knobs. This is turning knobs. It's just turning, and it's turning. It sounds worse. It's like, oh my God, you just turning. Then you turn the bass knob, and then you turning this, and then what? Where are we going with this? And then to be with bassists like you guys that, have a method to it. You understand the science of it, so the tone is round, it's not crumply, it's not all those different things. So that experience, talk about your sound, but for you to talk about your sound and we'll go into depth of it as far as the strings and the how, because that's all a part of it, and your instrument and how, because I know Jack has had that black bass. You played that back in the cellar back in the days. You still have that.
I had it a long time, yeah.
You had it a long time. And
it's not black anymore. It's only...
So we start with Jack. We start with you, Jack.
Well, I think that, because I've done so much session stuff that it's sort of all over the place. But my live thing for a long time was that bass, the 66 jazz bass with flat wounds. And, the flat wound is a big part of the sound.
Yeah.
I always kind of played around with flats, but then, around the time that I started playing with Lenny, I had a few basses that I used flats. But then when I got the gig with him, he would only allow flats, basically. So I kind of got into it. And you just sort of realize when you look back that all the cats that we grew up listening to, even early like Louis Johnson, Stomp and songs like that, that's flat wounds, and all the Jamerson shit's flat wounds, all the Zeppelin stuff's flat wounds, all the Beatles stuff is flat wounds, and for years everyone played rounds, including myself, but that was a big part of it. And I have basses, I have some basses, like I have a P bass with rounds, a P bass with flats, a jazz bass with rounds, jazz bass with flats, active basses. I use Music Man a lot. I went back to Music Man on this tour with Steven Van Zandt because I did a record with him where I was doing like my jazz bass, the real sort of round Jamerson kind of sound. Then the next record, he was like, I want the bass bright. So I played a P bass with a pick. And then when they mixed the record, they added like 20 dB of top end to the bass. And I was like, oh, man. And it kind of threw me, it kind of startled me. But I was like, if I'm going to have to capture that sound live, I'm going to play a Music Man, which is a lot brighter, So it's kind of all over the place depending on what's needed, what the artist wants, The sound that I like the best really is the jazz bass with flats. I like that kind of just old school, fat, and I like the way it sounds with a pick. I like the way it sounds with fingers. Slapping's a little bit of a challenge with flats. Still, I mean, Larry Graham did it, but it's not easy. I find it very challenging, but.
What's the challenge in it, Jack? Because
just the round wound string, and maybe you guys think differently, but the round wound string gives you something back. So you hit it, and you can it gives you a little recoil. But the flat, you hit that, and it's just like.
Yeah, it's the same type of thing on guitar.
Yeah,
it's a warmer sound completely. But you're right. If you try to funk on a flat wound, it doesn't have the slap back.
Yeah.
To me, anyway,
it's a different thing. It takes a little more work. It's cool. I mean, I love that sound, Larry Graham with the flats, and just, it's a whole nother sound, which I love. It's totally different than like Marcus's sound, which I also love, but it's just a different thing.
So from the bass guitar sound, from the self going into the amp, the relationship.
Well, I love a big amp for a big, if you're playing in big rooms, but I think any decent amp, it doesn't matter too much to me. As long as it's solid sounding, I'm cool with tube amps. I like solid state amps, it's not that important as long as the amp can cut what the gig is. When I was out with Lenny, I had 4 cabinets, 2 double 15s and 2 810s, and that was the right amp for that gig, you know. But you know, a lot of gigs you bring that and they'll be like, no, man.
Woo. Okay now.
That ain't gonna happen. But you know, with Lenny, like the bigger the better. He loved it, so you know, he's a good player too. So
Right. So Trev, what do you say about that, sir?
Funny enough, starting on the road, the amp that was on the Freddie gig, what was on the rider that Artie had ordered. So it was
There you go.
Sorry, Trev, you got
Art.
stuck. Sorry. It was an Eden World Traveler 800.
Yeah.
With 2 4x10s. So Gene Williams used to always come over. Shout out to Gene Williams. Used to come over to the bass rig and stand there while I tweaked it and be like, "Oh, it's got to be lower. It's got to be lower. It's got to be bassier, more bottom." So I'm tweaking, trying to figure it out, and you know, it was a stretch for my ears. But over time, I kind of developed where he was going, or what he heard, or what he interpreted that he heard from Artie's amp. Right?
Oh gosh!
Oh, here we go.
So just taking that as ground zero for me, I kind of started developing ear and trying out Ampegs, and like I love Ampegs now. It's usually what I play with Roy, and that's what's on my rider. You know, Ampeg B15s or the SVTs with the 810s.
Yeah, man.
That's heaven for me.
yeah,
You
it's
know.
hard to beat.
So yeah, so it's just another thing of evolving and where you hear things and how you reference, what you hear in records, and just kind of putting it all together, you know, and then creating a sound, your sound.
So okay. So Tony Bridges, Baby Shoes.
I'm still looking for the perfect bass sound. One of the things I'll say, and I think I got hired a lot, not just for my playing, but my sound. And I like, because I'm going to end up doing, for the most part, most of the gigs, a bit of slapping. I got to have a bright sound. You know, I want to have a bright sound. There are, you know, I had my EB3 that if I wanted which is my first decent bass, if I wanted a warmer sound, I would use that. And of course, because I was emulating Jack Bruce, that was my bass for when I was doing all the rock stuff early, you know, like early 70s. But as far as sounds, I like round wounds. I had on my EB3 until they finally broke, and I got that bass in 72. I kept the same strings, the flat wound strings on that bass until there weren't any yet, you know, because it had a sound, like Jack said, that you can't get if you put a brighter string on there, you know. And I didn't want even a new flat wound sound, you know. I just wanted to have that old, dirty, I've been around for 10 years and I'm still working. But on my regular bass, my 67 Jazz, I tend to like, I love rotor sounds on that bass. I tend to use, wow, it's been so long since I've used that bass and changed it. On my Kramer PNB1, I'll play with different strings, but they'll always be round. They'll always be, you know, round. You know, like, I like them. The thing with bass, my issue always, and I think engineers used to hate me because I was always wireless. So I'm out, hey, what's it sound like in the house? I ain't worried about what it sounds like on stage. I handle that. But what does it sound like in the house? Because it used to irritate me if I'm sitting there slapping and I'm popping and all you hear, what am I playing for?
Yeah,
you know? So I was like, look, dude, I want to hear, if I spit, I want to hear the bubbles pop on the string, you know? So you got to find that balance between bottom, because that's what we're supposed to have, you know, and top. And I think I do pretty good with that. So, and since most engineers that I work with know I'm coming out to listen, they're pretty good. And you know, you got to be humble in how you express. You can't go and, man, you better give me this sound. And, you know,
Never do that.
The last thing you want to do, those of you that have never done it or just
It's fighting with the cook.
You never irritate the guy that's responsible for your sound in the house.
Yeah. Because
he can just turn you off. You know, and I've seen him do it.
Yeah,
Happen to a singer. But I'm not particularly picky about brands. I tend to, my Music Man, my 5-string Music Man, which I got when I started playing with Freddie in '89, Freddie Jackson. So we all follow even in that circle. I realized I needed a 5-string. So I went to get that, and when I got that, it had D'Addario's on it, and I really liked the D'Addario's, so I exclusively used D'Addario's on my 5-string. I've got this 12-string now, which is interesting, and I'm still experimenting with the different type of strings to use there. But I'm not particularly particular. Sometimes I'm just cheap. What's the cheapest strings? When it's coming out my pocket, it's like, those are 19? Hey.
Man.
Using kite string.
And then, come on, baby. And then you learn how to work. You know, the one thing that most people make a mistake is thinking, hey, I want to sound like Marcus, or I want to sound like this person. And like I also taught, to a certain extent, Mark White from the Spin Doctors. He saw me playing, and he demanded you give lessons. And when I realized he had an ear, I said, that's the kind of guy I need to back me up if I need to call somebody in the crunch. Because that's most of the gigs I've gotten, people gave them to me because they knew I was quick. I had a good ear. I could be on stage and learn the song on stage. So he was always trying to emulate my sound. And I said, Mark, you have your own sound. It's in the fingers. Because, and I'm sure Jack and the other guys will tell you the same thing. You can buy 10 different basses, and you have to, like, especially if you record, you have to listen. Which bass was I playing? There's always something distinctive, and usually it comes when you slap or pop. You'll hear some. Oh, okay, that's the Music Man. Oh, that's the Fender. Oh, that's the Kramer. But for the most part, it doesn't matter. I can pick up Jack's bass, and it's gonna sound like me. You know, I can pick up Artie's bass. It's gonna sound like me. You know, and vice versa, because it's a certain amount of your sound. And I know, like, for years, it was hard for people to try to get Marcus's sound. What's his name who first was playing on, I don't know, Age. I'm telling you, boys. Woo! But there was only a few cats. Wayne Brathwaite, early on in 1980, I knew he was able to get that sound. The Leno Show. Well, before it was Leno. What was the bass player to play with Hiram and all of them? Willie, thank you. Well, Willie was able to get that sound, but a lot of people tried to cop Marcus's sound, and they couldn't, because a lot of his sound is in his fingers. And then sometimes when people are asking, well, what amp do you use, and blah, 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 you know, Jack and I, Artie and I, we can all come out with SWR, Edens, whatever, and each of us are going to sound different with the same exact setting, because it's in the fingers. Yeah, it really is.
And also the way each person hears the bass, you know, so it just comes out the way you hear it, and like you said, in your fingers.
You know, because where you play, you're positioning, you know, if I want a certain sound, like if I want a Jaco sound, I'm automatically going to play high up near the bridge, you know, and turn a lot of bass off, you know. Well, usually what I do, I turn the front pickup off and play the back pickup. You know, you start to learn different things. If I'm playing reggae, then I'm going to kind of move towards the neck. You know, for different musics, you play different ways. You know, if I know I'm playing a song where I'm going to need a lot of harmonics, I'm going to tweak the thing like that. But that's why I say I've come close to the perfect sound. Really, the sound that you get when you're playing through a really good PA system, if I could get that out of a regular amp, you know, I could die a happy man. You know, because I was doing a No Nukes festival in 1982, in Central Park. And it was the first, my Kramer was new, my PNB one was brand new, and they had shut the system down. We almost didn't get on. Well, they finally, Third World left because it was taking too long. The thing went on all day. It was an all-day festival, no nukes film. And they got mad because it was just taking too long. So they left. So the band that I was with Sekou Sundiata, at that time we called it Dada Doo Da Da.
Yeah, Dada Doo Da Da. Yeah, brother, come on now.
Because we were the R&B ensemble before that, and then we became Dada Doo Da Da. They brought us on stage, and Trevor, you're going to be mad at me, but they had an Ampeg, with the 810s in it, and it was horrible. I hated it. But when they turned the PA system on, that bass kicked in, I thought I died and went to bass heaven, man. I was like, oh my goodness, that thing sounded so good. And of course, the better you sound, the better you play. And for me, like, I'll be honest, I know if I picked up one of Artie's basses and it was just tweaked right and the thing was sound, it's going to make me play different just because, oh man, and then of course, vice versa. You can pick up a bass and it's horrible to play and you just don't play very well because it's like, ugh. Which is one of the great things. Any of the young guys out here that are getting into bass, you're in a fortunate time because you can get an inexpensive bass that has killer sound now.
Right.
Where
right.
Okay, we're aging ourselves, but in the 70s, you couldn't get a cheap bass because if you got a cheap bass, you got a cheap sound, or the strings were about 5 miles away from the neck, and you learn a lot of bad habits. So we're fortunate we're at an age where you can get inexpensive basses that feel good, sound good. Now, I don't know how long they'll last, but at least you're not going to learn bad habits because you don't have a good setup as far as a bass, But I'm not, getting back to your question, I'm not really particular about strings. I just know I got to find that perfect balance between bass and highs because unless I'm playing reggae, I want you to be able to hear everything that I articulate. And so if we're not getting that, then, we're going to have some words.
Yeah.
That's awesome information, fellas. So again, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of folks are watching. We got an incredible flow here of bass players and all folks that are following us and, great drummers and, supporting us. Folks that have been followers. Ralph Rowe, Harvey Gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ralph Rowe, right? The Cookie Man.
T-Bone McEwen.
Yeah,
Anthony. Reggie Washington was on, but he went to sleep. He had to get up early because he's over in Belgium.
Yeah, he's over in Europe.
Yeah. Ivan Hamden is checking us out. So a lot of folks, Travis Milner is checking us out. Trav.
Drexel Anderson, guitar player.
Yes, Paris Ford.
Pee Wee.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Paris. Sorry, Paris.
Yeah. Leo Cologne.
Yes.
Leo.
Yes. Let's see, going back. Yeah, so there's a bunch of folks who are, so appreciative to it. So, Prince Charles has been, because we're going to do something Prince Charles later on. But again, if you don't know, now you know show. We're so happy you guys are sharing a lot of gems, dropping a lot of gems, which is so awesome. And because I want to hit on a few more things because I know it's getting late. Definitely, we support, we appreciate any support that you guys can do for us as far as the Cash App, which is the $, NYCM Collective, and also Venmo, which is just the same thing without the $, NYCM Collective, because we're just trying to get the production better. Because eventually we want to be able to do the videos and, talk about the sound so we can have the sound up so we can really listen to the thing and really tweak it to really understand it so folks can really get it. So we're getting towards that. But it costs a little bit, though. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. But really quick, I'm going to go by everybody. Okay, so like Jack and with Lenny Kravitz, Josh Stone. He recorded with Little Steven, Beyonce, Stevie Salas, Rob Thomas, Naughty by Nature. Did the live records with the live albums with Lenny. And did also Temptations, and he had the thing here you did with Scream with Michael Jackson.
Yeah. That was with the Naughty by Nature crew.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. So it's great. Shout out to Jack for those incredible accomplishments and being placed in the studio sessions like that. And let me let's actually because this pretty much goes for everybody. Then I'll continue with this. Is usually the artist is there or it's pretty much just the producer.
Most of the time, the artist is there. Sometimes you're just working with a producer, but I love tracking stuff live. That's my favorite thing. So when you can track live with an amazing singer, there's nothing better than that because you just get into it. There's just a certain artist when you work with them, when you track live with them, it's almost like the bass plays itself because their shit is so deep that you just kind of get in a flow with that. So that's what I love the best. I love tracking live.
Okay, and then so I'll flip to. Thank you for that, Jack. Yes, sir. Hubert. Okay, so Hubert, because we talked about this the last time we kicked together. That is the LindsayBeachMusic.com. They did a transcription of the complete live record with Erykah Badu. So every song on there that you did, they have their bass transcripted out for the for each song, which is amazing. And then last, right? So most recently, check this out. I don't even know if you know this. They have a thing, iCloud, where they have your bass singled out. So you hear Poogie, boop, 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 and then you're playing, what song was it? Yo-Yo, right? Yayo, rather. Okay. Right.
Yayo,
so,
Yayo.
Yayo. Yeah, see, Erykah, don't get mad. I know you. But
you talking about the remix?
Was it the remix?
No,
yeah,
no.
I mean, it was the live. It was the live thing that was on the. But they had So they had the bass singled out, and this the big sound and it's on SoundCloud, so you can check that out. Anybody, you guys just check those things out. But and they talk about. The bass player. What kind of bass did he use? What kind of amp did he have? And it just goes on and on. People from Europe, how they just like, who is this guy? Because they weren't sure of between you and your dad. And it goes, it's a big, long, back and forth with people. And because I think you had the MTD bass back then.
Yeah, back then, that whole album, that was the MTD bass, 5-string. That's to this day, that's my heart and soul.
Okay.
That's my main baby that I go to for almost any recordings that I do. It's either that or I Fender Jazz, but pretty much it's that MTD, man, because I'm not a big tech head. I like stuff that's real simple, and I figure if you have a great sounding bass and a decent amp, really good amp, you don't have to do a whole lot of tweaking, and I control everything from my bass. I know how I want it to sound, and I pretty much just go for that. And with Erykah, we had one of the best sound engineers I've ever worked with, which was Gordon Mack. Incredible sound.
Oh yeah, Gordon Mack.
Yeah. Big props to Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah, Gordon's no joke. So he would always make sure that I was real big, fat in the house. And I would play my 3 or 4 notes, and we'd be good. I gotta give myself a shameless plug. I got my own project getting ready to come out. Single's gonna drop.
Yes.
Probably in a couple weeks. We'll see. But please look out for that.
Yeah, let us know about it. We'll push it because we got some folks that love what we're doing. We get it. That's what this is all about. We want to. We got to fill up Jack's studio. We got people got to go there and book some time. With Trev, got to book some time. Come to me, right? Groovy Tunes. What's your studio called, Jack?
I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet.
Okay. All right.
I gotta decide soon because I'm gonna open them, but I probably will name it after my production company, which is Dug Deep. But I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
Okay. It's gonna work though. It's gonna be good because you put out some great things. Because and because that thing that you did that I saw with the artist, what's his name? Luke something. What's his name?
Oh, Gideon Luke, yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was really good. We got real close with that. We almost kind of had something happening, but it was a really good record.
Yeah, a good record. Really
We
good
went
record.
on later with Jules and stuff, and I was like, okay, it's gonna happen, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, it's more gonna happen because you definitely rolling.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, and other things real quick, and I'll finish with Hubert, was that he did Will Downey, worked with Will, Alex Leon, as we know, Glenn Jones, and that's some awesome work. And then
Thank you.
and I flip over to my brother Baby Shoes with BB&Q, Jeanne, Tom Brown, Fonzie Thornton, PM Dawn, Teddy Pendergrass, Freddie Jackson. You know, great work that he's done. And we also did the New York
Don't forget
Undercover.
Shaka. Definitely don't forget Shaka.
Shaka, Taylor Dane.
Surface.
Yeah.
And Surface, yes.
Soul for Real, Odyssey, Gwen McCrae.
Right.
Oh, well, yeah.
Ellen Foley, Fonda Ray, Gary Brown, Gloria Gaynor, Groove Theory.
Okay, I'm sorry. It broke. The tip broke.
Here's that $5. Here's that $5. So, wait a minute. That's that $5.
Right?
Moore, Mick Taylor, Harry Mitchell, Laura Branigan.
Oh, right.
And I go on, but
I know.
The stuff just went off. It got so overloaded.
Right?
The pictures just went off.
Right?
Got overloaded, Tony.
And we did the New York Undercover thing together with Spaceman.
Oh, we didn't even get to that.
Yeah, right. And we backed up everybody with that. Some crazy stories with that. And also the Quiet Storm thing with Vaughn Harper, the simulcast. We did that, which we did we basically backed up everybody, which was an awesome experience as well. So we give definitely a shout out to Baby Shoes. Well known through the community with the Baby Shoes,
Blessed. I've been blessed.
Yes. And who teaches Marcus Miller? It's like I taught Billy Cobham. Oh my God. Yeah. So go on to next is my brother Artie Reynolds, Alex Moyan, Keith Sweat, Najee, Mariah Carey. He did, recorded with PM Dawn, Sandra St. Victor, Alicia Keys, Justin Bieber. Who records with Justin Bieber? That's awesome. Right? Gerald Alston, my former boss. American Idol. He's done great work with, as far as the recordings. And this goes on and on. And
you and the crew.
Right? Yeah.
You doing dancing with
Ray? Okay. Everybody get a round of applause for Ray. Ray's like, he's the grand booba of New York City. We gotta let everybody got to send in your dues to Ray, okay?
I had to sub for Artie one season, I think 1996. I don't know what you were doing, but I got called to play for you.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, see? So I thank you, right?
I was trying to think, what was I doing? I don't know.
Right?
Well,
yeah, so go.
Because that's like I was working with Taylor, and I had to do something with PM Dawn, but I couldn't do PM Dawn because I had to do Taylor. So I called Artie, and Artie subbed for me for PM Dawn.
That's right.
Then he got to record something.
Oh.
Right? So while I'm here, because we got to run soon, but the thing with you guys, because get on it and get off it real quick, is that the tune with Freddie Jackson is the intro, ba-da-da-da-da, right? The infamous line that some have worked and some have crashed, right? For whatever reason. So why is that line so difficult? What is it?
Because you started. When you're standing on stage, everybody's like, all right, you ready? You ready? Yeah, we're ready. All right, let's go. And you got to have that tempo right. And if you hit a wrong note, it's all you by yourself. And Freddie hears it.
So
everybody hears it.
Yeah. And they're going to talk about you.
I know I was in a band. I don't know who was playing, but that happened. That did happen.
I'm gonna fess up right here. We were in Canada. I didn't hear Ralph Rowe Count It Off. when by the time I realized I heard 3, 4, I just hit the 1. Boom. Boy, did I get a meeting at the end of that gig. It wasn't no boom, doom, doom. It was just boom, boom. That's it. I didn't hear him count.
Oh.
You know. So there was the meeting with the road manager. And,
there was a meeting.
And then what was bad was I got so paranoid. I mean, I'd be sitting there thinking about it, and that's the worst.
And once you think about it, you're gonna mess it up again. Once you think about it,
that's the worst thing to do. But the thing is, that's a hook, and that's why they were really pissed with me because I missed it. I only missed it one time though. You do it one time, you don't ever do it again. But that's the key thing, Damon. That as soon as you hear that, you know
that's the song, right?
That's the song.
Right.
So
if you was to play just that bass part for Shazam would find that song like that just from that line.
Right. Wow, that's
right. Yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that because that was definitely something.
Damon, it was double jeopardy because I was the MD for a while, for a couple of years.
Okay.
So it was up to me to start the song. I wouldn't even count the band or nothing. It would be timing of what Freddie was coming out of You Are My Lady, a certain amount of applause. He would look at me or say something, but like you said, it has to be the right feel, it has to be the right tempo, and it's like delivering a punchline. Or like on a football in the Super Bowl when the team comes through the what's it? I can't think of it. When they come
field
out.
Goal.
Yeah.
It's all of that, and it kicks off the anxiety, the excitement of the crowd. So it's a big deal if you miss it. But I lived what you said, Tony, not with that song, but I lived it with Tenderoni. Bobby
man.
Brown.
Really?
The remix had electric bass, and it would start bing, 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 da-doom, da-doom. So there was a short couple of weeks where the dancers had a falling out, and they had quit. So they had me and the guitar player trying to fill the flanks of Bobby. So imagine me running around the stage, and I got 3 left feet, not 2 left feet, 3 left feet. On that song, for those 2 weeks, we were wearing the dancers' clothes. I had some really blousy sleeves. Call me up to the front of the stage. Now imagine we're in an arena like Madison Square Garden. Call me up to the front of the stage, point to someone in the front row, some girl or something, and I would start with that bam, boom, boom, bam, and they would blast it through the system. This one particular day,
I know where this is going. Help me.
And my sleeve mutes my strings in the middle of the
Oh man.
And Bobby turns and said, "That ain't my song." And 2,000 people start laughing.
Oh.
It took me about 3 weeks before I could play that intro again. Every night, the anxiety of playing those 3 notes was like, so I know what that is. But thank goodness I never had it with Freddie, but I had it with Bobby.
Oh, gosh. That's amazing. I know everybody goes through that. One time in your life, it's like...
Hey, listen, I was playing with Randy Crawford, and I was young, new, and we went to the Bridge of Street Life, and I played the song 1,000,000 times, rehearsed it 1,000,000 times, but I had a complete blank for the entire bridge. I didn't know. They would turn around looking at me. You know what I did? I turned around, I started kicking the amp, banging on the amp. I was like... Sound guy came running over. They checking the amp, everything. The hook came around. I was like, "Oh, it's cool now. Everything's cool." Now, Artie, that's my exclusive. No one ever knew that. Now they know.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now you know.
I love it, Hugh. I love it, babe.
Oh,
I love
God.
it.
That's hilarious.
Sharing the real.
Hey, Hubert, thank you, because I'm glad to know I ain't the only one that's happened to.
You ain't the only one, bro.
Oh no.
You get them brain farts sometimes, and it's just like, what's the bridge? And once you start thinking, by the time you figure it out, it's over.
It's over. It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. We're on to the next.
Yep. So the next one is my brother Trev. Trev, incredible, for all he's done, just being at all the and going through the grind of coming up in those open mics and just being a bass player for those systems, following the Arties and you know, all the cats, you know, you know, and Trevor's been there. You know, now he's doing the thing with the band leader at the Cafe Wa, and working with Cheryl and working with Mike Davis and working with great bands and leading them. And I've seen Trevor. And Trevor's like, you tell Trevor a song, you could name any song. All of us right now could name a song. Trevor tell you, you know, the form of it and what the tempo and just, you know, and just a hunch. Okay, this is where we're going with this, you know, and how we're going to end it, how we're going to make it, and also can sing the background part, you know.
Right.
So you know,
that's right.
You know, so Trevor's
singing bass player.
Yeah, Trevor's that. You know, and Trevor
I ain't
now
mad at you, man. That's a talent. That's a talent. That is a talent. People don't know how hard it is to play bass and sing.
Truly.
And Trevor's working with Roy Ayers, which is another school, I'm sure. You know, because I did the, you know, Roy and Roy is, you know, he has his way. So, you know, to be in that and to learn from it and being a bassist that he loves, and he loves Trevor. You know, I've been able to speak to him about he you know, Trev, what?
Yeah, gotta have Trev.
You gotta have Trev. You know, and you know, and have done the Freddie Jackson gig. And on and all. And one of the things that because I did some research on Trev, and he says not only speak the idiom, but speak the language and be the specific dialect as far as the parts for whatever the music is. You know, is really deep. And what I want to ask you, Trev, really quick is doing the NPR, because not everybody's done that. That NPR Tiny Desk concert that you did with Roy. How was that experience?
Oh, it was great. It was great. They brought in like a crowd from off the street, and it was just like not totally spontaneous in terms of us, but just the energy because of the crowd. And it was great. I mean, I had no idea when we were doing it, because it was just like opening night before, because it's just it's in DC also, the NPR building. So we were getting ready to do a string of dates at Blues Alley.
Okay.
And so it was just another gig at the time. It was just the opener for the week. And it ended up being like one of the most watched YouTube events, you know. And it was great. It was just a great spontaneous energy for me, you know.
Awesome. Was Frank Sheffield the booking agent for that?
I believe he was, yes.
Okay.
He was running things, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yes, and just the school of Roy. What is that experience like?
Oh, great. I mean, just his approach is like he has an expectation, and all you could do is just try to live up to that. He has a standard. He hears everything. So in terms of wherever you are, wrong notes, placement, he feels it because he interacts with that. So he needs a really firm foundation to be able to do his thing and to be able to fly. So I try to create that on my end with drummers. Shout out to Krista Carmine and Mark Adams.
Mark Adams, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So we work as a unit.
He's gonna be with us on the keys weekend, next weekend.
Yeah, next week. Yeah, he does it next Sunday. Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Trev. And I'm sure Jack has probably great experiences with Lenny as far as understanding the form of things, and we all have had with Artie, with Ray, because Ray is the same. He's very particular. That's why you man that chair, because other cats have been in there. But certain things that he calls for, that if he can not know that thing's covered, he's good. If he knows that chair is covered, Ray Chew is cool, but he has to make sure. And if because I had to come in. I probably remember this because Ivan couldn't do it. So Ivan, last minute, maybe half hour before, called me to come in. And so when I got there, Ray was like, "What? What? He embraced me for sure, but it was like, if you take him off his thing, how he expects it, like anybody else, for sure. But Artie, you feel that, I'm sure that's all these years. It's a long time that you've been with. How many years have you been with Ray now?
Oh, geez. I want to say 15 years.
Okay.
15 years, maybe 16.
Yeah, solid years.
It's been more than that, Artie.
It's been more than that,
I've been
Artie.
in Georgia 16, and when I subbed for you, it was in 96. You've been with them longer than that.
I joined the Apollo around 2000. It wasn't earlier. The other bass player, I can't think of his name.
Campbell?
2000.
Barry Campbell.
Yeah, Barry.
Barry.
Is that who I subbed for? I thought it was you.
Well, you subbed for me before there too. But yeah, around 2000, maybe 99, 2000.
Okay.
I just remember because I had to let
Did
go.
you plug this thing in?
Yeah.
I was playing with JT Taylor.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I had to pull out of some of those gigs because we start doing the Apollo tapings. So that was around 2000, I think. But wrong, you know. But a long time.
Okay. Yeah, awesome, fellas. So all in all, this is, again, we appreciate you guys for everything, all the gems dropped and all the great information totally about, holding the bottom and the part that you play in the rhythm section. And, and not only your playing, but the fellowship and your spirit that you put in every situation. We appreciate that and sharing that information. So we thank you guys. If you have anything to, like Hubert is plugging his record. Does anybody else have any other things they want to add? This is definitely the time because, I don't want to keep you guys much longer.
Yeah, I also own and operate a recording studio, and I'm open and available for mixes, mastering, recording. Groovatune Studios.
Okay, do you have an email or something with it they can get you?
Well, they can contact me through my email, trevbase1@gmail.
Okay, excellent. Yes, fellas, yep. And Jack is going to get his name up as soon as he gets it to me. I'll get it to everybody, so he can get. So that's a great place because Jack's awesome producer and a musician and all. So and all that we're doing, fellas, is great things. And anything that you're doing that you need me or Bill to partner in to help make it to get it out, we're here for you. And we're going to continue doing these things. We're going to bring back around because we're waiting for Tracy. We're going to do the bass with the ladies, and with Tracy Wormworth and Gail Dorsey and other
Double Z, right?
Yeah, Double Z. Yep. Got it. Don't get. I'll show you know what you'll call me in a minute. Say, where?
Yeah. He has a lot to do with why I'm playing.
Yeah.
A lot to do with why I'm playing.
Cool.
Yes.
That's who I came up watching. Her, Val Burke. I came up watching them.
Right.
It inspired me to not practice but play.
Right. Yeah, we're going to do a thing with Val as well. We'll do a thing with Val Burke and pretty much everybody that had anything to do with the Cheetah. So Val Burke, Bobby Boyd, and Frank Abel, and those guys. Those are good guys that just knew all about that whole run of things, and the Willie Feaster and the Mighty Magnificence, and that whole that energy that kind of started everything before all the things that we ended up doing. So, those guys were like, the trailblazers. So it's going to be a great conversation. So with things like that we're going to continue to do, and that's to bring the light to things. But again, I appreciate you guys, and, thank you, and we'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you so much, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace,
Thank
brothers.
Peace, blessing.
Love.
Everybody.
Good to see you guys, man. I ain't seen you in so long. This is a blessing.
Yes, sir.
This is a blessing, man.
Yes, sir. God bless.
God bless y'all.
Fellas, be
Bill,
safe.
stay on.
All right.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for everything. I just want to thank everybody for being a part of this again. This was another great one. Bill, you can speak on it.
Yeah, this is enlightening again. I found out some things about my French horn brothers, and my it's just some things that you find out about people that you think you've known. I think I've worked with each one of those bass players. Maybe not Jack, but I think I have worked with Jack.
Okay.
And I love them all dearly. They're just blazing. They're just blazing. And I'm really appreciative that they were able to come and spend some time with us.
Right.
And, it's just a blessing. It's a blessing. Hope you guys are getting something out of this.
Yeah, we had a good flow today.
Yes.
A good amount of folks following up behind it. Let me just get this thing here. Like T-Bone, a lot of folks, that's following us, a lot of great bass players, and thank, Ralph Rowe for hanging out, and Harvey, and, our condolences to the family, Harvey, and, we definitely, I'll be reaching out to you, because I definitely want to do something regarding the Jamaica, and the whole flow with that, and Ivan, and Travis, everybody,
Bobby Bell,
Bobby
wow.
Bell. Yeah, and everybody that reached out. And next week we're doing the keyboard. And the keyboard's going to be with Bobby Douglas, John Adams, Mark Adams, Chris Robb, and Caleb James. Caleb was, for me, he's been in Japan, but he's back and forth. We appreciate Caleb for all he's done and working with Nathan East and a bunch of other folks. Anybody that pretty much goes to Japan uses Caleb and his crew. So we want to, just definitely speak to everybody, bringing everybody, and then from that point, we have a bunch of things coming on. We want to dealing with the new normal, and the recording, and regarding the rehearsal studios with Clay Chef with Smash. So Clay's going to speak. We have a representative from Sam Ash Stores, what most of us all, from 48th Street came up with, and so there's a lot of different things that we know, and also. Frank Sheffield, who's a booking agent from DC that does, the rooms in DC, just like we were speaking about with Roy Ayers. Let's speak of the new normal, what we can expect moving forward, and how we can be prepared for that, and anything that we can help to make things happen. And also on September 3rd, we have Danny Atherton.
Danny Atherton.
Danny
Atherton. Poogie Bell.
Right, that's on the 6th.
Vincent Henry.
Right.
Timothy Allen and Ronnie Wright.
Right, but also he just added Michael White.
Oh right.
From Maze. And Lenise Hughes, who was from with Rick James. So we added those two so it'll be the 3 drummers, and we'll bring everybody because most of all, this is a salute to our good brother Danny. Because Danny Wood's been through a lot of things. And, he rang the bell a few weeks ago for his chemotherapy. So, we want to celebrate that far and foremost. So, that's one of the things that we want to do. So we want to continue with that. But, we have a bunch of great things that we're going to go in through September. By next week, we should have all the information. But I wanted just to thank you guys for being a part of this. And thank you for your support. Again, it's with the Cash App is $NYCMC Collective. So it's an NYCM Collective, and for Venmo is NYC Collective. Okay, so any support, because we want to really get so we can have the sound and the visuals, so we can make it a better experience. We have it, but it just takes a little more tweaking, and just to have somebody on our team that could cover that, so we're working on putting that together. That'll make it a better experience. But we're blessed in that. The numbers have been great. We appreciate you guys. You trust us, and we appreciate that. We are, we honor that trust. We'll continue to bring
Thank you so much.
To bring some more information, and then we're going to continue with the guitar, continue all the instruments, continue with everything that's necessary, as well as health. With George Graves, going to talk about how we can keep fit, make sure the back is cool. With Wayne Cobb, I'm making sure that we're covered with of the cancer screening of prostate cancer and different things, little things that we should be aware of and taking care of ourselves. Everything possible. We have any concept or idea that you think that we should address, you can go to the email, the nycmccollective@gmail.com. And just send us an email, shoot us an email. We'll definitely respond, get back to you, and all that. It's all good. I'm going to give a shout out to anybody that's in LA. Hope be safe. All the fires as well as the COVID, and besides that, all the communities. You guys be safe put the mask on, social distance, stay away from folks, so we can get through this and just continue to communicate. And because if we miss you, Bill and I miss you. If you see something and you see the show and you don't see it, we haven't reached out. It's a lot of work, y'all. It's a lot of work, but we're gonna get to it. And the things that you made that want to cover, we're open to it. So don't hesitate. Don't think that we're shunning anybody, pushing anybody off. Male and female, because we've had, this address it. We've had shows and we've had, everybody, male and female. So don't think that we're trying to just be all male, and that's what this is about. It's not. It's for everybody, the whole community, because we're blessed by it all. Okay. So we thank you. We love you, Bill White. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, people. Everybody, love you guys. Love you guys. Stay safe. Remember, a gig's not worth your life. Remember that.
Right. That's
Remember
indeed.
that.
Yes,
Mask
indeed.
up. Mask
sure. Up. Yes, indeed. All right, Bill. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Blessings. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.